Here, we're looking at the net farm income average for single and conventional farms, so single practice farms and conventional practice farms, when we compare them to multi-practice farms. So these are farms that are using 2 or more practices in conservation. And here we see that multi-practice farms overall typically experience a higher net farm income than when you compare them to single and conventional farms, right? So now here what we're seeing, if you remember that graph that I showed you earlier, we're seeing that as you incorporate more carbon farming practices into your production, right, the economic benefits that you're getting are starting to be equalized by the environmental benefits. So yes, you're building up the environment, you're improving the health of the soil, and because of that, you are now also able to maybe increase your yield in a more significant way, or you're able to increase the quality and sell your product for a higher price. And so in this graph, it looks very similar to the one we saw in our overall view of the data set when we're comparing the net farm income across all different levels. And once again, what we see is that overall single practice farms experience the lowest average net farm income when compared to conventional farm operations and multi-practice operations. But that also begs the question, okay, if we see that at the single practice level, their economic benefits are not growing at a rate that matches the environmental benefits, how do we get them to, instead of going just to one practice, get them directly to that multi-practice level, right? So as we're introducing these practices to them, we're not just saying do no-till. We're saying do no-till with cover cropping. We're saying do no-till with crop rotation. But because of the income difference between conventional and multi-practice farms, support in the form of a subsidy or programming or things of that nature is what would be needed to offset that potential loss that comes from transitioning. Because as a result of transitioning to certain practices, you might need access to different equipment, right? You might now have to make different financial decisions in order to continue to scale your production accordingly. And so overall, just in conclusion here, we saw that the farm characteristics that significantly impacted the likelihood of practice adoption were farm size, cropland acres, and race. And overall, single practice farms exhibited the lowest overall net farm income between the 3 categories of farms. This suggests that additional support is needed if we're going to continue to encourage farmers to use these climate smart practices to benefit themselves and the environment. They need that additional support in order to make that transition. And that will furthermore allow us to encourage an increase in intensity of these carbon farming practices in the landscape of U.S. agriculture. And so how we're addressing some of those issues at North Carolina A&T is we have a few different programs. One is our renter program. This program is designed to allow small-scale farmers in particular to rent out certain equipment. Again, as I mentioned earlier, sometimes the cost of transition between practices is the first financial hurdle that a lot of farmers face. And one way we are trying to mitigate that, especially for our small-scale farmers, is like, hey, instead of you having to buy new equipment to let you plant if you're doing no-till, you can rent it, right? Charge you a small fee. The only fee that is incurred is just a small maintenance fee, but allowing you to rent the equipment helps you make that transition in a way that doesn't require so much capital on your end. And so our current rental program includes things like soil probes, hay probes, and plasticulture laying equipment. And we are hoping to be able to further in the future expand this to different types of equipment like planters, rollers and crimpers, and broad forks. There's also been ongoing research in this area. So last year, my colleague back there, as well as program leader Dr. Blevins, they worked with some of our small scale farmers directly to help them start to incorporate some of these different carbon farming practices, cover cropping, no-till, and something that's big in our region, which is high tunnel production. And we're seeing overall that, especially for our farmers that are incorporating multiple practices, whether it's high tunnel and cover crops, cover cropping and no-till, we are seeing visibly that improvement in their finances on a per acre basis, as well as in their overall annual finances. We're seeing as they're adopting these practices, they're able to increase their yield and increase their quality in such a way that it does, in the long run, improve their pocketbooks. And lastly, we have our Small Farm 360 Leadership Institute. This is the agribusiness and marketing focused program with a leadership spin that's designed to help educate farmers on some of the business management strategies aspects of their farm operation. Looking at things like how to properly enterprise budget, understanding how to develop a comprehensive business plan so that way when it comes to, like we've been hearing in some of the sessions, dealing with that gap between minority farmers and the support they're getting from the USDA, right? If you're able to make a comprehensive business plan, if you're able to get your record keeping in order, if you're able to improve the quality of your records, you're then more able to put together a more competitive proposal when it comes to things like grants or USDA support. And so this is one of the programs that I've been grandfathered into as a fresh start at A&T, and I'm very much looking forward to expanding this program out to incorporate things like taxes, right, financial literacy, and all those technical skills on the business perspective that once our small scale farmers have, they'll be much more competitive in the market when it comes to access to capital. Thank you for your time. I will take any questions you have.
We do have a good amount of time.